You ever come home from something that changed you, only to find out somebody back home changed something too, something they had no business touching, because that's how this started. Not with a fight, not with sirens, not with broken glass, with a fishing boat sitting in my driveway like my absence had turned my property into public parking. Back in early 2021, I bought a small corner house just outside a quiet neighborhood in southern Ohio. Nothing fancy, just a simple place with a long, straight driveway that ran up the side of the house. After years of deployments, temporary housing, and living out of bags, that driveway meant more to me than the house did. It felt solid. It felt like mine. I remember standing there with the keys in my hand thinking, yeah, I can build a real life here. And for a while I did. Quiet mornings, a grill out back, my brother Nate dropping by unannounced to insult my lawn chairs and eat my food. It was simple, but simple starts looking pretty beautiful after enough chaos. Then I got deployment orders 8 months. Before I left, I asked Nate to check on the place once a week, grab the mail, make sure nothing looked off. He laughed and said, if anything even looks at your house funny, I'll know. About 4 months in, he called me. Now, Nate is not a phone guy, so when I saw his name pop up, I already knew something was wrong. I answered and he said, you buy a boat. I laughed. No. Why? Because there's one sitting in your driveway. At first, I figured one of my friends had done something dumb and temporary, but the boat didn't move. It just sat there like it paid the mortgage. So Nate checked my cameras. Sure enough, around 11:30 one night, an older pickup backed into my driveway. A guy got out, unhitched a small fishing boat, left it there, and drove off like it was normal. Nate recognized him right away. Neighbor 2 houses down, blue-sided place, beat-up porch. A guy I'd only seen a few times before deployment. Nate went over there and knocked. That your boat? He asked. The guy shrugged. Yeah, you need to move it. Just temporary. Nate told him the homeowner was deployed, that it wasn't his property, that this wasn't up for debate. And the guy laughed, not nervous, not apologetic, just dismissive. Then he said the line that stayed with me. He's not even here. That hit harder than it should have. Not because it was loud, but because it was casual. Like being gone meant I stopped existing, like absence was permission. Nate told him to move it, and the next morning it was gone. I figured maybe that was the end of it. 2 weeks later, the boat came back, same trailer, same crooked angle in the middle of my driveway. Nate went over again. Boat's back, he said. Yeah. You need to move it. It's just for a couple days. You said that last time. And I moved it, didn't I? That was when I realized it wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a test. He was seeing how far he could push before somebody pushed back. 4 months later, deployment ended. I drove home, saw the house exactly the way I left it, and the driveway was empty. I actually thought the whole thing was over. 2 weeks later, I came home with groceries, and there it was again. I just sat there staring at it, because now he knew I was back. My truck was there, lights on at night, movement in the house, he knew. That's when it clicked. This wasn't convenience. This was entitlement. I walked straight over to his house and knocked. He opened the door and gave me that split-second look people get when they realize the problem they've been avoiding is standing right in front of them. I nodded toward the driveway. That yours? Yeah. That's my property, I said. Not a storage lot. He shrugged. It's just for a few days. I almost smiled just because of how predictable that was. You said that before. And I moved it. So I stepped a little closer and kept my voice calm. I'm not asking again. Move it and don't bring it back. For a second, I thought maybe hearing it from me would do it. Instead, he tilted his head and said, we'll see. He moved the boat that evening. A week later, it came back. That Saturday morning, I stepped outside with coffee in my hand, saw it sitting there again, and something in me went completely calm. Up until then, every interaction had worked off the same assumption that I would keep asking, keep warning, keep giving him chances. I decided I was done asking. I called a tow company. The dispatcher took the address, asked a few questions, and said they could be there in about 45 minutes. No yelling, no scene, no marching next door, just action. When the tow truck rolled up, the diesel engine came slow and steady down the street. The driver got out, glanced at the boat, and asked, That the one? That's the one. He hooked it up like it was any other job. Metal clank chains tightened, the trailer lifted, and just like that, my driveway was mine again. That evening, there was a hard knock on my door. I opened it, and there he was, jaw tight, already angry. Where's my boat? It got towed, I said. Impound yard on Route 18. He stared at me for a second, then finally said, You had it towed. I did. You serious right now? I told you not to park it there. You could have warned me. That one almost made me laugh. I did. Multiple times. He shook his head like I was the problem. It was just for a few days. I looked at him and said, then it shouldn't cost much to get it back. That landed. All the inconvenience he kept dumping on me had finally landed on him. Tow fee, storage fee, time, embarrassment. He turned and walked off without another word. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. Then the boat came back. I called again. The dispatcher paused and said, "Boat again. Boat again." That was removal number 2. Then 3. Then 4. By the end of summer, we were at 5. One time he tried getting clever and left the trailer halfway over the line like property lines were just a suggestion. The tow driver took one look and said, "Still counts. Removal number 6. And that's when the whole thing took on this weird rhythm. The dispatcher recognized my voice. The drivers knew the address. Nate came by one afternoon while they were hauling it off again and watched in silence for a second, then said, "This might be the most patient revenge I've ever seen." "It's not revenge," I told him. He gave me a sideways look. "No, it's better. It's paperwork with teeth." Honestly, that was the twist I didn't expect. He was right. I wasn't beating this guy with anger. I was beating him with receipts. Every time he crossed the line, the world answered him in metal hooks and storage fees. My favorite one was number 14. He had people over that day, cars lined up, low music playing, smoke from a grill drifting over the yard. And right there in the middle of all that company sat his boat in my driveway again. So I made the call. The tow truck rolled in slow like it knew it had an audience. Conversation started dying. Heads turned. The driver got out hooked. The trailer tightened the chain, started lifting it. Then the neighbor came running out. "Hey, what are you doing?" The driver barely looked at him. "Private property tow." Then the guy looked at me in front of all his friends and said, "You called them." I met his eyes and said, "You parked it there." And just like that, the boat rolled away in broad daylight. That one hit different. Not just because it cost him money again, but because now it cost him face. Winter came and somehow he still didn't stop. 15, 16, 17. During number 21, a storm was blowing sideways so hard the boat was half covered in snow by the time I saw it. I just stood there and smiled because there was one thing he still hadn't figured out. Tow companies don't care about snow, they care about calls. An hour later, headlights cut through the white and that truck came rumbling in. The driver rolled down his window, grinning. "Boat again. Boat again. Chains on trailer up, gone?" After number 23, something finally changed. A couple weeks later, I noticed work trucks next door measuring, digging, spreading gravel. 2 days after that, there it was, a brand new extended driveway on his own property, wide enough for his truck, his boat, all of it. Plenty of room for what he'd been trying to steal from me for free. He could have done that from the beginning. All that time, all those fees, all that pride, all that pointless stubbornness in the solution had been right there. But some people would rather pay for consequences than admit somebody else's boundary matters. That's the bitter little lesson I carried out of the whole thing. A lot of folks don't learn from kindness. They don't learn from patience or warnings or second chances. They learn when the world stops absorbing the cost of their behavior and hands them the bill. It's been almost a year now. No boat, no arguments, no problems. Sometimes I see him outside. We don't talk. Maybe once in a while there's a nod that tiny, kind men give each other when everything meaningful has already been said. And every time I look at my driveway, I think the same thing. Being calm doesn't mean being weak. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let consequences speak in your place. In my case, karma showed up wearing a reflective vest and driving a diesel tow truck. So let me ask you this, if you were in my shoes, how many times would you have made that call? Would you have stopped at 1 or gone all the way to 23 like I did? Drop your take in the comments. And if you've ever dealt with a neighbor, an HOA, or any entitled person who thought your boundaries were optional, tell me your story too. I want to know, was this justice or was it revenge done the polite way?